Hey guys and gals, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk Little Witch Academia, episode 22. First off, I will start with the apologies. I was very busy these last few days, and unfortunately I was not in a position where I could easily make videos. I apologize. I don't like it when it happens, but it's a fact. It happens. Anyway, moving on. Little Witch Academia episode 22. I had previously done a preview video for that episode, and now we got the full episode. This episode marks where the plot's really ramping into gear. We get actually good amounts of information. We get furthering of Croa's plot of what she generally wants to do, and we get the backstory, or to some degree some backstory, on Ursula or Shiny Chariot, and we also get the present day big movement that now Akko is aware of who Ursula really is. And also we got a nice little surprise in the fact that we get a reasoning or an explanation for why Akko can't fly. Now that little bit right there is by far the little detail that I think is just the best in terms of this episode. I honestly did not expect to get an explanation for that. I did think that it was just going to be something that was going to be unexplained forever. So the fact that we're getting that, I'm very happy. Very happy. So yeah, now let's talk about the episode a little bit more in depth. Now, aside from the big plot movements, we also have like a tiny moment with Akko and oh man, what's the love interest name? Why am I forgetting it now? Okay, it's Diana, Akko, and there we go, Andrew. Right, man, why did his name escape me? Anyway, we got like that nice little moment with Akko and Andrew, and that's all whatever. We also got the nice little moment with Diana and Akko, her like passing the message along. We also got Diana talking to Ursula. You know, actually, when you look at it, there were a lot of little character moments that really worked really well here. Other things that worked really well in the episode. Man, I'm just listing off things that I actually really like. You know what? Actually, overall, this was a pretty good episode. Because, you know, you have all these answers being shown up, you know, it's all being thrown out there. And then you have other little nice things that kind of just help continuity along. Like Akko realizing that the monster, or the little cube that she saw, was part of the monster. So this was a big thing I had with the last episode, that I wondered, is Akko like actually looking at what's attacking her? And it's like, no, she is looking at what's attacking her. She had the recollection to figure out that little cube thing is part of the thing that's been attacking her this whole time, and then that leads her to Croa, and we get all that plot exposition, and Akko gets her world destroyed. It's like great stuff, you know. Ultimately, I'm very happy that happened. Otherwise, Akko wouldn't be that competent. But I'm glad that the studio stepped up and kind of made sense. I'm glad that continuity is rewarded in this episode, so I'm pretty happy for that. Actually, like, this is a pretty rewarding episode all around, just because so many things that have been set up are being just unleashed on us in this episode. And speaking of things being unleashed on us, I mean, like, really the whole Croa and Akko, the conversation, and Croa revealing herself, it's really not that important for the viewers, because we kind of know all this about Croa. We know that she's kind of going towards that direction. The real value here is the stuff that Ursula is saying, right? Like, that's the stuff that's just like the really interesting bit, because that's just, man, truthfully, I did not expect that. You know, I thought Ursula did something to the moon. I thought maybe, hey, maybe it was some kind of battle she had with Croa. But no, the beginnings of the explanation that we got in this episode about what Shiny Chariot was doing is just, it's so, man, I wouldn't call it dark, but it's kind of cruel. Well, actually, no, it's very cruel. So I like that level of tragedy that was being put in here. And I think my favorite line in that whole sequence is when Ursula's saying that when she heard that, or she was hoping that Akko had not gone to her show. It was something along those lines, that she was just dreading the fact when she had heard that Akko was a Shiny Chariot fan. You know, it's just, I like how well that tied in, the whole thing with being unable to fly. And speaking of being unable to fly, in this episode, we kind of get a confirmation that Ursula was affected by the pollen to some degree. Diana was the one that clued us into that in particular. And actually, like, at this point, is there even that much of a danger in the pollen affecting Akko? Because if it's taking away a witch's ability to fly, you know, was there anything to take away from Akko in general? Unless the pollen also takes away magic to some degree. Look, regardless, you know, that whole little thing, just well done. Now let's talk about Ursula in particular, because I'm thinking just, what kind of approach would you take to get to the conclusion that I'm going to power things with the power of dreams? Well, yeah, dream magic fuel or something like that. It was called, because like Cruella's is noir and Ursula's was dream. It's just, it makes that first scene in Little Witch Academia a bit more important, because even when I first watched it, I thought it was odd that things were popping out of people's chests, but I thought that was just part of the show. But no, now we find out the things that were popping out of people's chests was actually their magic. And it's just, again, what kind of mindset did Shiny Chariot tackle that in order for her to justify in her head that it's okay to take this away from people? And it's just like a pretty interesting thing. Like, how desperate was Shiny Chariot at that point? How desperate was this whole magic's running out situation? Because that's the underlying problem here. It's magic's running out and people are trying to find out ways to replace it or replenish it. So just how desperate did Shiny Chariot feel to get to a point where she said, okay, if I just take away the magic potential from people who are probably never going to be witches or whatever, it'll all be okay. And it's just, yeah, I guess if she looked at it in that degree, but then there's that kind of elitism, right? Like, she's assuming that normal people will never really be inspired by the things that she's doing. So it just gets pretty dark. It paints Shiny Chariot as just a bit more of a manipulator that's kind of counter to the image that we have of her in the flashbacks. So exactly how she got to the point where she wants to say, I'll just rob these people's ability to use magic, it'll be pretty interesting to see like what exactly was her rationale to get her to that point. And now that we're talking about like capability of using magic, is it really that important that Akko lost the ability, or just inner magic, or whatever degree of magic she had? Is that really that big of a deal? Because so far, the only thing that it really seems to affect is a witch's ability to fly. It doesn't, well, it might affect Akko to some other degrees, but those other degrees, it's easily replenishable, just as the way we've seen it. Like, we've seen that the witches are extremely dependent on the ley lines. They don't generate magic inside their bodies. They just take magic from the earth. So is Ursula taking away Akko's ability to fly that big in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, when most witches don't even use whatever internal factor of magic they have? Like, is it really that big of a deal? Now, Akko's reaction to all of this, to finding out about Ursula and what she's done, that's a totally warranted reaction. She had an image of Shiny Chariot built up in her head, and then all of a sudden this is just like thrown on her. It's shock, like her having that reaction, totally within the realm of realism, totally believable, totally expected. That's not really a big deal. I do expect her to come back and talk to Ursula, but just in the grand scheme of things, is her losing the ability to fly that big of a deal when she can do most other things marginally well? Like, is that really that big of a deal? Because in that case, like, just taking away a person's ability to fly doesn't really seem like that much of a sacrifice. At least just when you compare it to every other thing that a person can usually do. Although if this is leading into Akko's performance problems as to why she can't get a grip on magic very well, then that makes it a bit more, I guess, a more tragic sacrifice. Or it paints Ursula in a bit worse of a light. Anyway, let's see, other things to say about the episode. This was a very beautiful episode. If you look at the art style on Akko when she's running, you can tell that this was going to be a very action-heavy episode. This was going to be a very important episode, just because Akko was drawn a little bit more detailed, or a little bit more defined. So, overall, it was a very beautiful episode. It gave us a lot of information, destroyed Akko's world, revealed that Ursula was a bitch to some degree, and yeah, I'm pretty excited to see where we go from here. But that's what I'm going to leave it. It's a pretty short video, shorter than the usual Little Witch Academia videos, but thanks for listening to me ramble. My words are a bit displaced today. It's a bit hard to talk still for me, but yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching, and let me know what you thought down below. Apologies again for the late video, and until next time, I hope you have the best day you could possibly have.